just getting on a ship in Jerusalem when I got a call from my brother that my mom was very ill and probably dying. And of course, I was shocked. You always are, even though she was 92 years old. We knew it was coming, but we just never thought it would be today. And so our problem was getting home. We were on the ship already. It was late in the day. We were heading out to sea. No way to get off the ship and back into Jerusalem again and find some way to get out of there. So we had to stay on the boat a couple of more days before we could get off at a port that could get us back to Fargo the soonest. And it actually took a couple of days more to get back and get into the Minnesota and then drive down to Redwood Falls where my mom was. But that morning was such an important morning in my life. As I sat in her room, she was sitting in a recliner, and all I saw was the back of her head, and she had this white hair, and it was always permed, tight little curly curlers in her hair, and there she was sitting, and she didn't hear me come in, so I walked around her delicately and then showed her my face, and oh my goodness, the way she looked at me was heart-touching, is to put it mildly, because she just looked at me like I was the apple of her eye. She was just so glad to see me. And my brothers and sisters, there were 6 of us at that time. All of the 5 had been there in the last couple of days while I was traveling, so she had had a chance to see them, but I had not. And so she was just so happy that her last little chick was back, and all of her 6 were back in the area. She made me feel in that moment that I was everything she needed. And it hadn't always been like that for Mom and I. We had very different ideas about life and how I should spend my life was a lot of our disagreements. But in that moment, that was all behind us. And it was just pure joy, pure love, and God was in it. We spent the morning with Mom, some of us, and she actually sat in that chair, and she'd nod off for a nap now and then, but that was expected. And in the mid-afternoon, she wanted to go to bed. She was tired. And so my sister and I gently lifted her helped her get into bed and covered her all up, snuggled her in, held her, loved her up, said that she was the best mom she could have ever been, and we were just so happy that we had her. And then we went home. Well, the phone rang that night about 3 a.m., and it was my brother again telling me that Mom had just passed away. And so I knew then that she had waited for me. She had waited, and she just wanted all of us to be around when her time came. And I knew that all was well, that all was well. She and I had often spoken about death. She was very ready to go, and she had lived her life on this side of things, believing that it was meant to be hard. This side of things was to be very difficult because it was the time that we earned our way to heaven. Mom's life wasn't easy. She lived through the Great Depression. She had a little 13-year-old brother die of leukemia. She never saw herself as the mothering kind of person, and yet birthed and raised 5 or 6 children. And we were on a little farm in southwest Minnesota where there really wasn't enough acreage to make it, and their farm equipment was always breaking down, and money was always scarce. So the fact that life could be tough was never, ever lost on my mother. But the thing was about Mom is that she almost saw something good in adversity. She expected it, and she planned for it because it fit in with her understanding of life and faith and God. The idea of heaven on earth was as foreign to my mom as it would have been for her to be walking on the moon. The good thing for Mom was that when trouble came, there was always a silver lining, because that trouble was helping her earn her way to heaven. In this morning's gospel, Jesus is talking to his loved ones the night of the Passover meal, the night before he would be betrayed and crucified. And he knew it was imminent. He could read the writing on the wall. His time was coming very shortly. And he knew that this was the time that he needed to say some things to them. He had already washed their feet, telling them the importance of ministering to each other after he was gone. And he'd shared the meal with them, asking them to always do that same thing in memory of him. Sit around a table, eat bread, drink the cup, and remember me. Judas had made his exit, and now it was just Jesus and the 11. I happen to think there were more than 11. I have a picture at home of the Last Supper, and there are actually women and children sitting at the table with them, and I like to think that it was that way. So there probably would be more than just the 11 apostles that would have been with Jesus, in my mind anyway. And as Jesus knelt before them, a towel wrapped around his waist, and cleaned their dusty feet, as he shared that cup and that bread with them, and now using his words, he was doing what people have done everywhere for all time when they know they are soon to leave this side of things. He was spending time with his loved ones, and he was preparing them for this time when they would not be there in their loved ones' lives. And so Jesus began with calming, reassuring words. He said, "Do not let your hearts be troubled." And like many others have assured their own families from their deathbed, Jesus told them he would see them again. "In my Father's house are many dwelling places," he said, "and I will prepare a place for you. And I will come, and I will take you to where I am, and you will always be with me." Words that soothed their souls. Words that soothed my mom's soul as well. Many, like my mom, hear these words as Jesus saying to them, someday, whenever that someday is, that you experience your own physical death, you will be with me in heaven. And they are not wrong. But I think he's also talking about more than that. I think he's talking about that in-between time that he would be approaching, that he would be in, that they would be in, actually, the next day. That time between when he breathed his last on the cross and when they breathed their last. I believe that someday was happening very soon, and this dying was imminent, and they needed to know that he would be with them tomorrow, even, when his body was in the grave. It's true that those words have comforted me in so many times in my life and others as we have lost people to death that we have loved, that they are in a good place and we are only going to be here a while longer and then we will join them. And it's true. Everything in me tells me it's true. But I think it should not get in the way of living today, right here in this present, before we die. I think that Jesus really wanted them and wants us to live a piece of heaven on earth. Jesus often spoke of the kingdom, a lot of people say, and I love that too, the kingdom. And he is speaking that kingdom can be now. He's saying that today, right in our moment, we can live a kingdom life. And we read these words every Sunday as we recite together the prayer that Jesus taught us. And we say, "Thy kingdom come, thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven." And then we ask for what we need. We ask for it today. Give us our daily bread today so that we can make a difference in our world. We need it to be strengthened every day. And we ask for strength for service today of loving the ones that are the most difficult for us to love in that moment, feeding the ones who are hungry, and not only feeding them, but finding ways that they can learn how to feed themselves. I think that knowing Jesus is what kept my mom going, kept her grounded, that Jesus walked with her every single day, kept her going in a world that felt pretty harsh to my mom. I have a small picture in my office that was my mom's, and it's an old picture that she had on her dresser. And one day she was teaching me how to dust properly, which is very important. Yes. And she explained that she had been given this picture a long time even before that time, and had actually had it sitting on her dresser through most of her life. And she said that prayer every day just before she went downstairs at our big house and started her day. And I have to believe that that prayer was a very old prayer. It was to the Sacred Heart of Jesus, and in the bottom it provided an indulgence of 100 days, according to a Pope's decree on December 4th, 1915. So I don't know, maybe we want to get that prayer and get that indulgence too. We could all probably use that. Just kidding. Yeah, so we had this mother of lots of kids and not much money, a mother with low self-esteem, who fought constantly with depression, anxiety. Mom knew she needed spiritual awakenings, and she needed them every day, and therefore she had to plant them into the daily living of her life. And so she prayed that prayer each morning before she came down to the kitchen and started making breakfast. Then Jesus went on to say to his loved ones, "I am the way, the truth, and the life. No one comes to the Father except through me." These are words out of Jesus' mouth meant to comfort and help his loved ones understand the way to God. But I think that we have, unfortunately, taken these words to make division into our religious lives. And many have understood them as meaning that Jesus is the only way to God, that there is no other way, and that gives you a very limited way of living and being in our world. I think Jesus meant exactly what he said. He said, "I am the way. I am the way." So what he was saying, that how he lived and how he died was his way to God. So I think that that is the path to God in my own heart, no matter who we are, where we are, when we live in this world. If we simply follow Jesus, follow the way that he lived, follow the way he died, we will find God. We will find God today, not have to wait until we die. That was such a self-giving thing that Jesus did. to give us that universal path to life and love and fulfillment. How we walk our path is up to us. How we find our own heaven on earth varies. In times of despair, my mom hightailed it to church. That was her place. Through the liturgies, she found something that could give her strength to go on. And she could go after that service, leaving that church and into her life, and be Jesus again. I'm thankful that my own way brought me to this church and all that we have here and all that we do to find happiness and fulfillment today. I love the path that we are on together. Love happens here in so many ways. We follow the footsteps of Jesus as we feed the hungry on Wednesday evenings. We follow the footsteps of Jesus as we seek justice by protesting on Saturdays. We collect items for Mother's Day and other times. We're always collecting items here for people that need them in our community. That I am part of all of that, I consider as pure gift. I also walk other ways to my own heaven on earth. I love nature and just being in nature and listening to the birds sing, and I love planting a garden, and I love to paint watercolors, and singing just brings me such joy. There are so many ways that I do follow right into the arms of God. How do you find God? How do you find that peace, that stillness, that strength that comes from following Jesus? I encourage each of us to think about that this week, because it's really important. Because when we figure that out, how to follow Jesus' way, then we will find our own piece of heaven on earth. May it be so, and amen.